I'm going to now recording. So this is the next stage for us where we've got to form the equations ourselves. So at the moment you've been given the equations, you haven't had to form them, but now we have to form them and solve them. So let's have a look at this first question together. We'll do this one and then you can do the others yourself. So it says you open up a small business with an initial investment of $90,000. The weekly running costs for the business are $7,800. The weekly revenue income from your business is $8,800. Determine how long it will be before you break even when your total profit matches the amount you have invested. All right? So just a general understanding of a straight line graph. What do we expect it to look like? Yeah?
We expect it to be 90 weeks before we get the return on it.
Oh no, that's an answer. I'm just in general, what does it look like?
It's gonna look like
So initial investment, that means I've put 90 in, yeah? All right. The weekly running costs of the business are 7,800. Okay, the weekly revenue from your business. So we're looking for two lines. What roughly do you think the lines will look like?
Well, the income would probably be a line going up.
Right, so there's one thing. I'm just doing a rough sketch. Now you can do this in your head normally. Okay? But yeah, my income will roughly go like that, yeah? All right.
And the input, so the investments would be going down because you're losing money? A line going down.
So you open small business, an initial investment, 9,000. The weekly running costs for the business are 7,800. What do you think?
I think the profit line would start like negative and then rise up and then intersect that line right there.
So which line? So we've got, this is the income line, yeah?
Yeah. I think it'll be like another line, it's like a profit line.
Profit line.
It's like where your investment matches the amount of money you gain. So you break even then you go.
Okay, so are we wanting a profit line though? What were you going to say?
Decreasing the debt line, 90,000, and over this amount of weeks it decreases to 0.
Potentially, we could say how much of my investment have I got left? What are the two things though? Let's have a quick look. The two bits of information we're given, well, the two things that seem to change every week, what are they? So what's the variable for a start? What's the thing that changes, goes up or... Yeah.
The income of your business.
Well, ish, but look at the word that's there that we're kind of missing. What is the income from my business? Pardon? 8,800. Right, that's the bit, isn't it? The per week. So if I said to you, how much income have you got? You would ask me, what?
How much are we putting into the business?
Nope. Just using that information. If I said, how much, right, here's a hypothetical situation, this is the situation, how much income do you have in your bank? What week is it? That's what you'd ask, yeah? After how many weeks are we talking? So what's the variable? The weeks, the number of weeks. That's what's going to change. So we need to look at that and say, right, my weekly revenue from income, right, my weekly income, so weekly, and then we've got notice the weekly running costs for the business are 7,800. So we've actually got income and costs. Costs, income. So we've got our total income every week will gradually go up, yeah? I get 8,800 every week. But what can be said about my costs? they go up as well, no? Are they going up as quickly as my income?
No.
No. Okay, so do we think something like my costs might be more like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would the equation be like 7,800x plus 8,800?
Well, let's talk about that in a sec. You're kind of going a step ahead of me and maybe other people, but you can say it in a sec. So do we get how there are two aspects to that? There's how much income I'm having and how much. Why are my costs starting above my income?
Because you invested 90,000.
Because I invested 90,000. And how much income did I have at that point? None. I hadn't made any income. So that's why my income is less than my costs. Why does the costs line not go up as steeply?
Is the running cost for business less than the income that
Per week, yeah? So how much difference is there in a week? 1,000, yeah? So every week my costs are only 7,800, but my income is 8,800. So I would expect my costs in total are going to keep going up, but my income is going up more. So I'm eventually going to catch up. Does that make sense? So we could probably, we're looking for this point then. What's that point called in business?
Breaking even.
Yeah. So this is my break-even point, yeah? So that's where finally my income overtakes my costs and I can suddenly start spending some money. Okay? No? Okay. So now what we've got to do is figure out how to solve this point. Now obviously this is a nice simple question, so we could just, I think Jacob had a go at guessing it right from the start. It's probably common sense, makes sense, yeah? But let's see, what we should do mathematically is form and solve our equations. So we need to form an equation for income. All right, so our income equation, okay, I'm going to call it I equals, make sense? Okay. What's the variable then? What goes up every time? But what's the variable?
Weeks.
Weeks. So the number of weeks. What do you want to give it as a variable, a letter? W, okay. So let's call weekly W. So we have a certain amount based on W. So I'm doing my income based on, in terms of the number of weeks. So So 8,800 W. Every week, so if my week goes up by 1, I get another lot of 8,800. Yeah?
This subtracts 7,800 and whatever variable that was.
Why do I subtract 7,800?
Because
What I've actually got now is a nice equation for income, separately. That's my first equation. What do I need to do now? I need to work out my costs for my second equation. So I'm going to call it C equals, yeah, 7,800 W. But that's not quite it for this one.
Would you add 90,000?
And we have to add the 90,000. Do we all see why we have to add the 90,000? Why? But what was it called then? It was the initial investment. So this was my investment, okay? And I would put that, like Sakai was trying to subtract it because that was a cost. We should actually just include it in the cost. All right, so that's my second equation. Now, we need to be a little bit careful because actually I've now got two different letters for what? So I've got W for weeks, but I've got I and C, one for income and one for cost. But when I have simultaneous equations, I need only two variables, right? So what can we call it? So on my set of axes, if I were to draw a set of axes, it would look like this, yeah? This would be the number of weeks. What could I call this axis?
You could just let W be X and I and C be Y.
Okay, so let's just say that's X. Income and cost, let's just call them Y. Keep it simple, keep it what we're used to. So we can then have our two equations as, the first one is Y equals 8,800 W. The second equation is Y equals 7,800 W plus 90,000. Make sense? Now it's in a form we're used to. We don't have to stick to any particular letters. So that's what I've done. So what's the next stage? Solving it. Matthew, do you know which method you would use in this case?
Would be elimination.
You could.
Substitution.
I could do that as well.
What do we think?
Which one would you want to use? Anyone?
I guess substitution.
Substitution would be absolutely fine in this case. Do you know what you'd write down for substitution? So what do we do if we're going to use substitution? Matthew sent us on the substitution method. So anyone want to offer a line? Okay.
Just put Y equals 8,800 W into the Y in the second thing.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to replace the Y's. Yeah. So this here is equal to Y. So I can substitute it into that. So I can write what? Okay.
8,800 W equals 7,800 W plus 90,000.
Yeah, that'll do, won't it? So I've eliminated the Y at the moment. And have I done the right thing? I'm not asking have I done enough yet. I'm asking have I picked the right variable. How would I know? Because I've got an option, do I solve for Y or do I solve for X? Which one first? Which one do I want to know? Have a look in the book, have a look at the question. See what does the question ask you to solve? Have you all read it? Have a chance? Which variable is it asking you? Some different hands. It's the same hand. 2 hands down for guys. You guys are doing it all. Someone else. Read the question. Which variable are they asking you to solve for? Darius? Which is the number of weeks, and what would be your justification for that? But what in the question would tell you which one they're after? Yeah, determine how long it will before you break even. So we're looking for this point here. We're looking for the number of weeks. Do they care what that amount of money is? No, they've not asked that in the question. So actually, this is a good example of don't do too much work. You know, if you've been given a question, solve the question. So that's why the I and the C, it wasn't a massive problem. We turned it into Y so we understand. But I want to solve for W, and I don't need to know the amount of money. So let's not go any further. So Bradley, you're going to do the next step of this. Good. Minus 7,800 W. And I get what there? 1,000 W equals 90,000. And then we divide by 1,000. And we get the number of weeks is 90.
Mr. Parks?
Yeah.
In a question like this, if you have to use two equations, could you use whole thing to use one equation?
How could you have used one equation?
If you had done 8,800 minus 7,800 equals 90,000.
Yeah, it was what we basically ended up with, isn't it? Same idea. And yeah, what you're saying would work if you want to set it up like that, but there's always lots of different ways to do it. But does that make sense there? So we've got the two steps there. We've got the forming the equations. What Sakai is saying is there was another process. Could have just made one equation which included both parts, but that's what we kind of end up with anyway. And then we have to solve them to get the number of weeks. So 90, is that what you said at the beginning?
Yeah.
90 weeks. So this one probably could have been done a bit of common sense as well. But we've got a mathematical process. We've shown that it is 90 weeks. You know, if the question was show that we break even after 90 weeks, that's it. All right. So that's that one done. There are different forms of the equations that you need to get used to. I'm going to let you start going through those questions. We might need to come back together and go through some different ones, but have a go to start.